Now we turn to our Android basic settings, and now we'll turn to accessibility. And I think we're going to start this by playing Warren's overview of those settings.
Let's now take a look at the accessibility section of our phone within the settings. This, in my never to be humble opinion, probably is the most important part of the phone for those of us with disabilities. In here, we could choose the type of items that we want that befits the type of disabilities that one has. And so I'm going to go in here and take a look at these things and then talk about those things that need talking about, explaining some features that may be a little bit confusing. I will now move my finger and tap on Accessibility Settings.
Accessibility, display, interaction, audio.
I will tap here to activate.
Accessibility. Navigate up, button, out of list.
Let me now take some time and go through the items. And starting from the top, if you're someone who likes to swipe, you can just swipe from left to right. And if you're an explorer like me, then simply keep moving your finger downwards as you go through the different items found in this section. Here's what we've got.
Downloaded apps, heading, in list.
Here, the first item that we find is the heading that says Downloaded Apps. In other words, these are not apps that come natively with your phone, but apps that need accessibility access and therefore are downloaded apps and are found within this category. The first item here I have is
Authenticator, off.
Authenticator, and I'm not sure if this one is coming from Google or from Microsoft or from some other provider, but I do have that here. It means that I have downloaded it at some point. Next,
Brailleback, on provide Braille output.
Brailleback, and this is an app that is meant for interacting with Braille displays and all of that. But though now that we have the Braille built into Android 13X, we can now start using Braille displays without the need of Brailleback. Next, we've got
BRLTTY, off.
BRLTTY. And this is an app that we talked with one of the developers or the primary developer, Mr. Dave Milkey, a little while ago. And I think that was last year that we had him on here. It's part of the Braille display support and all of that. And I believe it plays an important role in the Braille integration found in Android 13X.
Dashlane, off.
Dashlane is a password management tool, and I have it. I haven't turned it on because I'm mainly using the Google autofill and password management instead of Dashlane. I really like Dashlane, but right now I'm not using that. Next,
eReader Prestigia, off.
eReader Prestigia, and this is one of those apps that I don't know why it's in here in the accessibility area, but there it is. It's just an EPUB reader, but it's in here, and I haven't given it access to my accessibility services.
Speak, off.
And Speak is a very popular app that most of us are familiar with, so it's the likes of Lookout, Envision, SuperSense, and Sullivan Plus, and some of those apps. That also needs accessibility access, but I haven't given it access to that. And I think the reason why it needs that is purely because of the currency reader, which it utilizes the ideal currency reader, which in my thinking now, it's irrelevant because that thing is no longer being supported. So in my case, I didn't give Speak access because I don't need it for currency recognition. Next.
Screen reader, heading.
Screen reader, and this has to do with our screen readers. For those of you that are using CSR in conjunction with TalkBack, you will see that in here. For me, though, I do not use CSR, so the only screen reading app that I will see here would be the TalkBack. Back in the day when we had things like Shine Plus and Spiel, all of that will be under this heading. And so we move down here and it says
TalkBack, on speak items on screen.
TalkBack is there. Next.
Display, heading.
The next heading below that is the display. And this is something we talked about. And under display, we've got the following that are found within this heading.
Text and display.
Text and display. For those of you who can still manage some print, here you can go in and configure how you want your print to look or how your text to look on your screen and things like that. The fonts and all of that are found right in here if you tap here. Next.
Extra dim. Dim screen beyond your phone's minimum brightness.
Extra dim, and this has to do with that dimming. If you have dimmed your screen or set your screen brightness to 0%, and if you want it to be even dimmer than that, then you could tap here and activate that and make it extra dim. Next.
Dark theme will never turn off automatically.
Here we encounter another thing called a dark theme, and to the right of that is an on-off switch, and I have mine turned on, so that's a little bit more battery friendly for me because using the light theme may kind of drain my battery a little bit. So I kind of tend to prefer the dark theme, and also it's easier on the eye if you have a little bit of sight and things like that. But it all comes down or boils down to a personal preference. And like I said, to the right of that is the on-off switch.
Dark theme, switch on.
Mine is switched on. Next.
Magnification, off.
Next, we have the magnification. For those of you who have some usable sight and would like to be able to magnify things on the screen, this will be an item to turn on so you have that magnification. Next.
Select to speak, off here selected text.
Select to speak, and basically what this does is that if you have it enabled, when you encounter some certain part of the screen that you're having difficulty seeing, and this has to do with those who still have some usable sight and would like to use the service, then you enable that, and once you're on such block of text or whatever, you could make it speak that block of text so you can hear it. So if your eyes are tired, you may want to use that. But for me, as a blind user and a TalkBack user, I do not have the need for enabling this. Next.
Interaction controls, heading.
Interaction controls, that's the next heading. And the first item that we find under this heading will be
Accessibility menu, off control device via large menu.
accessibility menu. And this is something that I personally find a little bit redundant because the whole idea is that I want to have access to, say, hey, Google Assistant, or have something to like my quick panel. I could go in here and find those things found in here. I know it's a choice and some people kind of like that. I personally do not like that. And so I never have this feature turned on. The good news is that now in Android 13X, you can use gestures instead of having a little button or big button at the bottom of your screen, or you can move it to whatever part of the screen, which is more or less a problem if you ask me. But with Android 13X beta, we now have that ability to use the gestures that it used to be that one could enable a gesture to use that. So that's for those that would like that kind of item. I don't. Next.
Switch access, off control device with switches.
Switch access, and this is mainly for people with dexterity issues and you want to use a connected device to control your phone. This is the switch to turn on if you have such a device. Next, we've got
Timing controls.
Let's go ahead and tap here on timing controls.
Timing controls. Navigate up, button, out of list.
We have some items in here, and the first item that we have is
Touch and hold delay, short, in list.
Touch and hold delay is short. Now, if you think that is too short for you, you could tap here and choose the duration that you would like. Below that, we got
Time to take action, accessibility timeout default.
Time to take actions. What that means is that when you have a toast message or something pops up a message at the bottom of your screen and it's something you need to interact with, the default is like 5 seconds for that message to disappear. Now, if you find that that is a little too short of a time for you, then you could tap in here and actually change that to a longer duration of time. I think we have things like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe even up to a minute or two. Let's go in here and take a look at what I'm talking about.
Time to take action. Navigate up, button, out of list.
And in here, here's what we got.
Radio button, selected, default, in list.
So the default is the one that is selected by default. And like I said, I think this is like 5 seconds. And then below that, we've got
Radio button, not selected, 10 seconds.
there's 10 seconds.
Radio button, not selected, 30 seconds.
Then there's 30 seconds. Next,
Radio button, not selected, 1 minute.
we got 1 minute. And the next one,
Radio button, not selected, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Now let's look at the explanation of this item. And below that, we've got the about, and it tells us as to what that feature is all about. Here's what I'm talking about.
About time to take action, accessibility timeout. Choose how long to show messages that ask you to take action, but are visible only temporarily. Not all apps support this setting.
So not every app supports that setting. Let's go back now where we tap this item from.
Timing controls. Time to take action, accessibility timeout, default, in list.
Now the last item below here is
Autoclick dwell timing off.
auto-click dwell timing. And this has to do with connected mice or mouse for those that use those type of devices. What this feature does is that when your mouse is resting on something, then depending on the time chosen, it will automatically activate the item that is highlighted, and it's based on the timing. Let's go back to the previous screen.
Accessibility. Timing controls, in list.
Next, below that, we've got
System controls.
we have an item called System Controls. Let's go in here and take a look at the things that we have in System Controls.
System controls. Navigate up, button, out of list.
We are now on the screen with System Controls. And here are the items that are found within this area.
System navigation, gesture navigation, in list.
System navigation, and here's where you can go in. If you're someone who do not like the native gestures, you can go in here and change to the 3 navigational traditional nav buttons like the back, home, and all of that. They are all found in this area. I'll show you what I'm talking about real quick.
System navigation. Navigate up, button, out of list.
And we've got
Radio button, selected, gesture navigation, to go home, swipe up from the bottom of the screen. To switch apps, swipe up from the bottom, hold, then release. To go back, swipe from either the left or right edge, in list.
that's the one that I have chosen. So mine is set to the native Android system gestures. And to the right of that, there's a settings button.
Settings, button.
Now below that, we've got
Radio button, not selected, 3-button navigation, go back, home, and switch apps with buttons at the bottom of your screen.
and that's the one I was talking about earlier, like the traditional nav system. I'll now go back.
System controls. System navigation, gesture navigation, in list.
Below gesture navigation, we got
One-handed mode, off.
one-handed mode. If your phone is too big for you, you could switch this on so you can use it with one hand. In other words, being able to hold it in one hand and be able to do things with your phone without the need of another hand. Next,
Power button ends call, switch, off.
power button ends calls. And this is a feature I have never used because I don't like using my power button to end my calls. Because for me, when I'm on a call, I would like to shut off my screen. But if I enable this, then every time that I shut off my screen, I'll be ending that call. So I have never used this, but a lot of people find this useful. And as we always say, it's all about that choice. The last item here will be
Auto rotate screen, off.
the auto rotate screen, and it's off. I don't like my screen getting rotated on me while I'm doing things, so I keep mine in the portrait mode. And so to the right of that is the on-off switch.
Auto rotate screen, switch, off.
Let's now go back to the previous screen.
Accessibility. System controls, in list.
Let's now move on from here to the next item. And so below these system controls, the next item we come across is
Vibration and haptics, off.
Vibration and haptics. Mine says is off. I am one of those that do not care about things like vibrations and all of that, so I don't have sounds or vibrations on my phone. Now, for people who like it, however, here you can go in and control the level or the strength of those vibrations and things like that. I'll quickly go in here and show you what I'm talking about.
Vibration and haptics. Navigate up, button, out of list.
Putting my finger down, I hear.
Use vibration and haptics, switch, off, in list.
Mine says use vibration is switched off because I don't have it on. Now, below that, we've got things like
Calls, heading.
under the calls heading.
Vibrate for calls, never vibrate, disabled.
Mine is disabled because I haven't turned on the switch.
Vibration and haptic strength, heading.
And under the strength is going to be disabled or is 100%.
Ring vibration, disabled.
Is disabled.
Ring vibration, slider, 100%, disabled.
We go down.
Notification vibration, disabled.
It's also disabled.
Notification vibration, slider, 100%, disabled.
We keep going.
Touch feedback, disabled.
Touch feedback is disabled.
Touch feedback, slider, 100%, disabled.
And that's the last item here. I'll go back to the previous screen.
Accessibility. Vibration and haptics, off.
Below vibrations, we got
Captions, heading.
captions heading. And this is primarily for those who are hard of hearing or people who are genuinely deaf and would rather use captions instead. And so here are the items that we find under the heading of captions.
Live caption, automatically caption media.
Live caption, basically whatever media is playing there, it should be able to show you what's going on. Next,
Live transcribe, convert speech to text.
live transcribe, and that's if someone is speaking to you or if you have an audio on your system, then it will transcribe that for you into text. Next,
Caption preferences, off.
and here you could turn on the caption preferences, and because I don't use it, it is by default off.
Audio, heading.
We come to the heading of audio now, and below audio we've got,
Sound amplifier, use headphones to improve audio.
that's for sound amplifier. Next,
Sound notifications, get notified about important sounds.
and that's things like fire alarms or baby crying. You could go in here and enable such things. Next,
Hearing aids, no hearing aids connected.
I don't have any hearing aids, so none is connected. Next,
Audio adjustment.
and here you can go in and adjust that audio, whether you want things combined as mono or things like that. You go in here.
General, heading.
Below general, we have the following items.
Accessibility shortcuts.
Accessibility shortcut. And what this means is that whether you've assigned your shortcut to use TalkBack, for example, holding down the 2 volumes or whatever, or you assign your 2 volume key hold down to launching some other accessibility service, this is where you can go in and tell it whether or not that should also include the lock screen or not. I'll tap here and show you what I'm talking about.
Accessibility shortcuts. Navigate up, button, out of list.
I'll now put my finger down and you will hear what I'm talking about.
Accessibility button and gesture, quickly access accessibility features in list.
And to the right of that, we have an on-off switch.
Shortcut from lock screen, allow feature shortcut to turn on from the lock screen. Hold both volume keys for a few seconds, switch on.
And so I have mine turned on. So like I indicated earlier, whether you choose whatever accessibility service you want to be able to access even from the lock screen, you have to come here and make sure that is enabled, whether it's TalkBack or whatever other accessibility service you want to assign this shortcut to, then you want to make sure that this is turned on here. Because if I turn this off, for example, then if I hold my TalkBack or if I hold down the 2 volume keys on a lock screen, I will not be able to turn on TalkBack because this has not been enabled here. Let's go back.
Accessibility.
Let's now look at the last item that is found here in the accessibility settings, and that will be a very important item that all of us use, especially those of us who are blind, and that will be
Text-to-speech output.
text-to-speech output. That TTS, it has to do with all that TTS engine, and it's in here that we go in to choose as to which of these TTS engines we would like to use. Thus, a very important feature for those of us who are blind. That is a quick rundown, though, of the items found in the accessibility area.
So this is obviously the most important part of our phones, I think, the accessibility settings. Warren, do you want to say anything on the back of your recording?
Well, frankly, when you talk about importance of the accessibility, we couldn't be any farther from the truth, because it's the most important part of our phones. And I remember back in those days when we couldn't start accessibility on our own, and handing your phone over to some sighted person, you got to tell them, hey, go into system settings, scroll down and see if you could find where it says accessibility. It's always been a pain. But here's where all those things, as I've shown, everything relating to accessibility. Now, that's from the Pixel side of things. And, before, though, we talk about some of the items in here that we find of importance to us. I noticed, though, that it's kind of arranged differently for those guys on Samsung phones and other devices. But Dragos, would you like to kind of, if you would, my man, show us the layout in a Samsung phone, because we do have a lot of listeners and readers that use Samsung phones, and so it would make sense to kind of show people the layout that's found in Samsung phones, so you know where things are in the accessibility area. Dragos, you want to do that?
Yeah, definitely. They were very different on my Galaxy S10 Plus when it was on Android 11, but they changed it in 12. They changed it, like, now Android 12 has more accessibility settings than it used to do in 11, especially in the visibility enhancements.
Recommended for you using 2 functions.
So it says recommended for you. It recommends you what accessibility services you should use. For example, if you turn on TalkBack, it will recommend you like extra dimming or high contrast. Or if you turn on the thing that makes everything extra large, it will also recommend you some display settings. I don't know other things. But then your first actual option is
TalkBack,
which I don't use. It's Samsung TalkBack. It's not much different from Google's, just late. Very late in comparison. Like, the updates come later for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with Samsung, why they do that, but sure.
Visibility enhancements.
Here we have visibility enhancements, which has a lot of the things that Warren's phone showed.
Hearing enhancements.
We have hearing enhancements, which has a lot of things. Samsung actually dedicated themselves to accessibility, if you ask me.
Interaction and dexterity.
Here you have like all of the delays when you touch and stuff. You have the answering and ending calls thing to answer with the volume buttons, which is pretty cool.
Advanced settings.
Here, I feel like I have to go in here. It's not too much, but it has a lot of useful things.
Advanced setting. Advanced accessibility button none.
Here you have all the accessibility shortcuts.
Side and volume up keys commentary screen reader. Volume up and down keys TalkBack. Notifications. Flash notification. Time to take action default.
This stuff was moved for some reason from hearing. The flash notification and stuff. It used to be in hearing.
Speak keyboard input allowed works with Samsung keyboard only. Unavailable. Speak keyboard input allowed. Bixby Vision for accessibility.
This is very good. It's a service that only Samsung has. It's basically kind of a Google Lookout alternative. Works well, if you ask me. It's I believe it works in the camera app directly. I'm not sure. I haven't used it in a while.
Voice label write voice recordings to NFC tags to provide you with information when you're nearby. The tag looking for something else.
And that's it.
Back accessibility. Installed apps. About advanced settings.
Advanced settings, and then
Installed
you
apps.
have
17 apps.
installed apps, all of my accessibility services that I added, like commentary screen reader and everything.
About accessibility.
About accessibility.
Contact us.
And contact us.
Navigate up button. Installed apps.
Thank
There
you
you
so
go.
much, Dragos. Here I've always argued that when it comes to accessibility, I think one of the companies that's in the forefront has to be Samsung without a doubt. And most especially, I don't care whether it's Google, whether it's Fruitvale. I'm looking at you, Apple. When it comes to
Yeah, right.
accessibility, when you look at what Samsung has done, it's what I've been arguing for years now, that we need to have access. When I turn on my phone for the first time, it should come up talking, letting me know, hey, if you're blind, do XYZ to enable accessibility. No one has done that except Samsung. So
Samsung.
forget about all the cry about Apple doing that, doing this. It's all nonsense. I think Samsung has it right, and Google hasn't gotten it right either, even though with Google now you have that what I call the heartbeat. But if you don't know what that means, you wouldn't know, okay, now I'm on the setup screen where I could enable accessibility. So the best thing is to do what Samsung has done. And you look at all the accessibility items found in Samsung phones, they're absolutely great. You go grab a Samsung TV, you turn it on, the latest ones, it actually comes up talking, telling you what to do if you want accessibility. That's
Even
what
older one
inclusivity
do.
should be. Yeah, we should have, inclusivity that way, making it inclusive. So Samsung, always, you guys, you rock.
Here's where I do feel sorry for Google though, because you can't can't run before you can walk, can you? So learn to make phones first and then make them accessible.
And that has
agree.
nothing to do with
Don't
that.
turn
It
out
doesn't
the
have.
junk.
It has nothing to do with hardware. Let's not degenerate
Well, it does, because
out of it.
it's not on Google's hardware, is it? So
No.
it does
But
have
what
anything
I'm
to do with
saying, all
hardware.
these companies have failed. They all say, "Oh, we're all about accessibility," but they're afraid to do it because I think the whole thing is that they're going to be thinking, hey, some sighted person is going to turn it on, and then they're going to be cursing them off and all of that. But I don't care. The thing says, if you are blind or you need accessibility, how stupid can you be? If you're not blind, why the hell are you touching the thing that's intended for accessibility? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
And you don't have to touch nothing. You just have to
No.
press the buttons, which
you just need to press
it's not
continue if you
gonna-
don't want accessibility. Come on, guys.
Exactly. LG did it first. I read an article about this. I never seen it. On some old LG on Android 4.1, you had when the phone started up, it said double tap to enable TalkBack.
Exactly.
And,
LG was another
that was
good
really
company
cool.
that was into accessibility. I know Samsung
they
didn't
were.
start it till 2016 with the Galaxy S7. I have
Exactly,
that to
the
prove that.
S7 did that. Yes,
Yeah.
I have an S7 Edge
Does
as well.
Windows do it these days with
Somewhere.
Cortana? I can't remember whether they do.
You have to
No,
press
they don't do it.
Control Windows Enter for narrator.
To bring up narrator. I wasn't
No,
sure if
no,
Cortana
it does
came up
though.
there.
It does do that. If you reset your
Not on Windows 11.
not
doesn't
on
do it
Windows
on
11,
11.
why?
No.
I thought Windows 10
I
did.
don't know.
Yeah, I thought Windows 10
Yeah,
did.
Windows 10 does.
It does. That's 10. It does. 11 does not. I reinstalled 11. It did not do it.
But why
10
regress?
Cortana will tell you if you need screen reader, press Control Windows Enter.
Yeah,
So you
but
still
that's
have
what
to
I'm
press-
saying. So that's fine. So that's what I'm asking. I don't want the thing to be, talking, but what I want is like, hey, if you're blind or if you need some accessibility, do X, Y, Z. We're not saying, hey, make everything, talking. That could be annoying to people. So I'm glad they've done it this way because I think that's probably the best way to do it. So now looking at the accessibility section, or that area where we have accessibility, what stands out to you guys there that is a must-have? I mean, in the categories, I think they're all done right in the sense that you have things for people that have dexterity issues, things in there for knuckleheads like me as a blind person, and then you have it there for people who have sight enough, but now and then, though, they would want to hear something read out to them because they either their eyes are tired or whatever the case may be. So it seems like we have everything in here for everybody, doesn't it? People who like magnification and all of that.
And Braille as well.
Yeah. We supposedly have Braille now in TalkBack 13.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet, but so at the moment I've still got Braille back with its annoying jingly noises when it connects and disconnects, which I've complained about many times, so I won't go over all that again. But it is
She will
annoying.
always talk about this dinging sound of the bell.
That's funny. Well, I'll
And
tell
it's
you what
really loud, especially if you're in church or something, and suddenly your phone goes delete. Imagine that.
Yeah,
Let us pray in a moment of silence.
yeah.
That's something we don't need. No.
I think I know that I don't know. Now for me, I'm learning because I kind of learned on my iPhone how to do like touch typing and stuff, but I sometimes feel like I'm not fast enough at it yet. And so sometimes I would like to have the option to Braille screen input, and that was native in the iPhone. You could download the the Braille keyboard.
Well,
and
you can on this too, but
well, yeah, but I think you have to pay for it on commentary. I just wonder if the phone companies themselves, Google and Samsung and them, could just put one innately on on their platform, so to speak.
Well, TalkBack has a Braille keyboard, but you have to use TalkBack, and we both know how much you like TalkBack and I like TalkBack.
Yeah, no,
So,
but I'm just wondering, like an outside, like an actually within the system UI, I guess. I don't know. I don't know enough about Android anymore to really put
Well, I think
what I'm thinking into words.
here's what's going on though, Sarah, because even on the iPhone, I actually use the word iPhone. In the iPhone itself, that Braille thing is found where VoiceOver is found, isn't it? Isn't it part
it's
of
in
the
VoiceOver.
yeah,
yes.
so
You
it's the
can't
same
use it
thing
with
with
VoiceOver's off.
TalkBack. I mean, it's found, we have Braille keyboard there in TalkBack as well. So if you're looking for it in commentary screen reader, then you have to ask whoever is writing commentary screen reader to enable, Braille capability. But we have that full support on Android coming through TalkBack, for example, whether it's version 12.2 or version 13 now, which actually makes it better. Exactly the same thing that we have on iPhone, Apple phones, because now you don't need Braille back in order to do that. It's integrated right in there. So it's the same thing you're talking about.
With accessibility, I'd really like it in TalkBack if I could say I want to hear every letter when I'm touch typing on the screen, because you need that, but I'd only like to hear every word when I'm using the Bluetooth keyboard, and I'm not sure that TalkBack is that advanced.
I believe you can
yet.
do it with commentary.
You
Yeah,
can
I
do it
don't
with
use that.
TalkBack too. You just have
TalkBack.
to go into the keyboard
Yeah.
preferences and do that. And
but it's
your
only
choice.
one setting for both, isn't it? It doesn't have.
It's not
I didn't think it
keyboard.
was. I thought you could do it for hardware keyboard separately.
Oh,
Yeah,
have they updated that now?
they
I'll
do have
a
that.
look. I'll have to have a look.
Interesting.
Maybe it's updated since I last checked. In that case, if I'm wrong, apologies, everybody.
The keyboard has been revamped a lot, and if you haven't been in there, especially the hardwired keyboard, you need to go in there and change things, how you want them to be. It does. I like what they have done with the keyboard, whether it's virtual or hardware keyboard.
Yeah, I like
That's
that it's
good, because
separate. Everything's separate now.
It used to be that it was just I had to have words and letters for everything. Oh, well, then maybe I can improve my experience now. Then
They
that's
changed it a while ago. Yeah. No, they
That's
changed
good to
it.
know.
What, TalkBack 12 or 11?
Oh, I've been very busy studying, so I've been too busy doing that to do that recently, but yeah, that's interesting. I think
I
talkback's
used-
interesting. On Samsung, I love being able to press up volume to answer the call and the power button to end the call. I find that a lot less of a kerfuffle
Oh,
than
that's pretty cool.
when you
Yeah,
can't do that on
the
other
up button
phones.
is a Samsung thing. The power button's universal, but the answering the call with the volume is a Samsung thing.
It's very cool. Yeah, I do like that. If I didn't have that, could I do the double tap like you can on?
Two-finger double.
Oh yeah,
to
2-finger double
answer?
tap.
That
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
works, doesn't it? I'm sure I've done that. But the up volume is just easier.
Yeah,
I used to
the
use
double
that
tap works
until
in Android
like
11 and up, I think. That didn't used to be a thing.
No, but it's more recent, isn't it? The double tap. Yeah, answering
Yeah.
it, answering the
that's what I
phone
mean.
used to be quite annoying because you had to find the answer button in time and stuff. And
Well, no,
answer-
you swiped up. You swiped up to answer. That was the
swiped
way
up
you
with
did
two
it.
fingers back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can
Or
find the answer button, obviously, but that's a bit slow.
with commentary,
Oh,
you just swipe down with
gosh,
one
I was-
finger to answer and swipe up to
I was
end the
very
call.
inefficient, and then I got a Samsung, so I didn't need to worry about it. And the other thing, I mean, the only thing is that doesn't work with WhatsApp calls, which is a bit irritating.
It won't
The
work outside
two-finger
the
double
phone app,
tap does.
I don't think. Does double tap work?
WhatsApp
Double tap,
works with
yes.
double tap now. You can just double tap. So a couple
good.
days
WhatsApp
ago,
calls.
Yes.
yes,
Yeah. Oh, good.
answering
Okay,
and
I'll try.
ending WhatsApp calls, you could use the double tap, or you could actually even swiping up. Will answer your WhatsApp call. I installed WhatsApp 2 days ago because I wanted to get hold of a friend of mine. Knucklehead Alan. Alan, if you're hearing this, you doggone you. So I installed WhatsApp after a year on a virtual number that I don't use on my media device. And, I was surprised. Swiping up answer calls, double tap answer calls, double tap ends the WhatsApp calls too. So I think those guys have come a long way, making things very
Swipe up with
accessible.
two fingers
Oh,
works
okay,
on
Yes,
WhatsApp. I
it
didn't
does
know
work.
that.
Yeah.
Because
So-
Now, Warren, when you say
the up volume thing didn't, or it didn't last
No.
time I tried it. But then these
Up
things are always
volume
changing.
won't, I don't think.
No, it won't.
not on WhatsApp, Warren, when you say double tap, you're meaning with two fingers, right? When you say
Exactly. Double
Oh,
tap
okay.
with 2 fingers. Yeah.
okay,
Both to answer and end the calls, the
and then the
WhatsApp
call,
calls.
yeah, that's the
But
way I
see,
do it.
so I happen to be one of those that I don't want to go bidding up on my phone. So I never use any of the double tapping to answer my calls. I prefer swiping up because, it doesn't matter what part, whether I'm swiping up from the middle or from the bottom, it answers my calls. And
How
so
many
I never
fingers
use
do
the double tapping.
How many fingers are you swiping up with for that?
With 2.
Two.
Because
Okay.
here's the rule, as I've always said, Android, and this is why I like Android. Sighted people will swipe up with 1 finger. And so if a sighted person does it with 1, for us, it
We do
calls
it
for 2. If a
And if they
sighted
do it with
person uses
2,
2, it's
yeah.
3. So it's very
It's yeah.
logical,
Yeah.
the logic on Android, because you're using the same gestures. It's not
Exactly.
screen reader based. And that's why
Yes,
I
'cause
like
if
it.
I'm
Apple's
if I'm
gestures,
scrolling,
3 fingers instead
Pardon?
of 2 fingers. Like if a sighted person swipes with 1 finger, you'll have to swipe with 3. Same with the actions. You don't double tap and hold like a sighted person. On Apple, you go up, down, and then you go up, swipe up for each action, and then double tap, which I guess is kind of useful in its own way. But then,
It just creates more steps.
yeah.
Exactly, unneeded steps, and so I kind of like being included in there because you are
Exactly.
using the native
It's
gestures
inclusive.
as a
That's
screen
what I
reader
like
based.
about Android.
I don't like screen reader based gestures. I'm
No,
just
and
one
the
of
key
those odd
advantage
ones.
is that you can ask a sighted friend how to do something on a phone and replicate
Exactly.
it. Whereas
Exactly.
VoiceOver, there are no system gestures in VoiceOver. They are all VoiceOver gestures.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
fine.
more
It
it's
is
more
what it is. But
it's more sort of inclusive in Android, like you say. We can ask sighted people, whereas if I need to help my dad with his phone, which is an iPhone, what I basically do is I turn on voiceover and do whatever I need to do for him, and then I turn it off again because I
Yeah,
can't.
that's what I do with my husband.
Because I can't tell him how to do stuff without voiceover because I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
That's exactly right.
And
I
that's why
remember
I've
I
always
got my first
argued.
iPhone 12 years ago, and I asked people how to do stuff, and all the people I knew who owned them were sighted, and you can translate them a little bit, but not in the way that you can on Android, just by adding a finger.
No.
Exactly.
No, and I
And scrolling up and down like web pages and things.
Two
You know, when you're
fingers,
using-
Apple's 3.
2 fingers for that.
It's well efficient on iOS anyway. It won't scroll very far.
I find with the iPhone a lot of times, and now Dragos knows this. My husband is technologically, I mean, he's okay. Like he can use the phone, but he doesn't really understand a lot of technology. So, and sometimes he'll say, "How do you do this? Like, how do you whatever?" And I'll tell him what I see on my screen if I'm trying to do the same thing on an iPhone. And a lot of times he'll say, "Well, there's not anything like that on my screen." And I always wonder why. Like,
And usually I have to chime in and explain the sighted way because, well, sighted, because I'm used to how the sighted do things doing tech support and teaching and stuff. I had to learn how the sighted do things even on Apple, so it's different from what we have on Apple, that is.
Yeah, and
Mm.
Android, the native gestures have nothing to do with a screen reader gestures, and
Exactly.
this is
You
why
just have to
I
add
like
one more
Android.
finger.
Yeah, it's good. Another thing I like in accessibility in Android, which you can do on other phones as well, but something I like because you asked ages ago, you know, what the priorities are for each of us. I like being able to make the screen dark so that I can be doing emails or messages or whatever on the train or in a cafe or something, and I know no one's reading them over my shoulder.
yeah.
So that's good.
The only problem I've found now is, and I think this is a commentary issue, I don't know what the deal is, but now when I do the screen curtain gesture to enable the screen curtain, it doesn't tell me the screen curtain's enabled.
Like I said, I think your license expired. I don't know yet. There. And so, yeah, that's one thing that I don't like about Apple, about the commentary. As much as I love commentary, stuff that should be free is behind the paywall. And I don't mind paying for stuff, right? But not for a screen curtain. I mean, you can use screen curtain, you just have to turn it on every single time from the menu, which is absolutely stupid.
Oh, that's annoying. TalkBack remembers it.
Well, so does commentary if you're paid.
If you're paid.
Maybe
she's
rather than
paid.
being behind.
But that should be a basic, feature,
know.
really,
It
because
should be independent, yes.
yeah, it's a basic feature.
Well, now you have
for
extra
a blind
dimming, so it
person.
doesn't matter
It shouldn't be
much,
behind a
I don't
paywall.
think.
Or behind,
Shouldn't be.
maybe it's behind a curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Hey.
Fee. Exactly.
Behind the curtain, I like that. Fee.
Exactly.
Behind the money curtain, you're right.
Exactly.